Today we are replacing an evaporator coil on a Mitsubishi ductless system. This is one we installed about 7 years ago. It's still under limited manufacturer parts coverage, so we'll be going through the whole process. So we turn the system down. We're going to pump it down so we can save as much refrigerant as possible and disconnect it from the outside and actually remove the whole indoor unit, and then we'll disassemble it and install the new coil just outside. That way we don't create any mess inside here. It's just a lot nicer. You got all your tools right there by the truck, and if you need anything, it's less trips. That's what we're gonna do today. Okay, so here we have our evaporator coil, still boxed up and everything. So like I said, we got the system running. We'll go ahead and pump that one down. Okay, I don't know if any of you guys have replaced these evaporator coils on these ductless systems, but let me tell you, they're a lot of fun. And I say that sarcastically. It's a lot of work. So I'll kind of walk you guys through it today. I'm here by myself right now, so the video is probably not going to be too good, but I'll do the best I can for you guys. So like I said, we got the system on right now. We're going to go ahead and pump it down. Here's the system. I got my gauges hooked up to it. You can see the fan turning there. So we got our line height here, so we're gonna have to take that wall cap off and then undo the refrigerant connections there. Those are just 2 flare connections. So first, pumping it down. Right now we're sitting at about 133 suction pressure. So we got a 12-degree superheat. So we found that this thing was leaking a couple days ago, and we reset the charge, so the charge is still good. So it's a leak in the evap coil. It wasn't huge, but so how you pump these systems down is pretty similar to your traditional split system. So we're going to wait to close the suction line there until our pressures drop. You know, because this one has a leak, I don't want it to get below 0. So we're going to get down to pretty low. You know, 2 psi, whatever, something like that. So I have it closed almost all the way, and we'll just crack it a little bit here. But you don't want to pull that into a negative and potentially pull in outside air. And let's close down, and we're going to pull the disconnect. And you see we're actually right at 0, so we didn't go into a negative, which is what we wanted. That's perfect. Okay, so this is going to be my workspace. I'll unpackage the new evaporator coil, lay the cardboard out so that way we have a nice working area and nothing's going to get scratched. Let's see what this thing looks like. You guys ever tried to work with one hand? It's kind of hard. Alright, so here's the new coil. So how tight these units are, everything has to go exactly where it's supposed to go. So here all you have is literally the coil, and then these are going to be the flared ends coming off. So you have to completely disassemble that indoor unit to put this one in. Okay. So I'm going to pop off that line hide and disconnect the 2 flare fittings inside the line hide. A couple things to make it really easy. Make sure you have a Phillips head drill bit that's long enough to fit inside the line hide. It really makes your job easy. Same thing, you got the tap cons going into the concrete. If you have a bit that's a little bit longer, it's really going to make your job a lot easier and, you know, avoid stripping out those screws. All right, let's do this. Okay, again, you got these screws that are pretty far back in here, so that's why you need the extended 5/16 bit. Then you got your little Phillips heads way in here. again, that's why you need the extended bit on the Phillips end as well. Alright, so now you're gonna have our connections inside here. I don't have to cut that back. We got spray foam in the hole, which is good, but it makes my job a little harder. That's okay. At least it was done right. It's like we installed it or something. Yeah, I have screws in my mouth, so I couldn't really talk very clearly. But yeah, this is done correctly. Okay, so Tyler got here. He's gonna assist here. So we got the drain line unhooked here. We also undid the wiring on the inside. So we're gonna try to get that spray foam out of there, and then just pull down the whole indoor unit and take it apart and everything outside here. Okay, so we got all the spray foam out of there. It's working good. You can feel that it's loose. So now we're gonna walk around to the inside, and I'll go ahead and pull that down. So it was a little tough coming out of the wall there just due to the spray foam. We got that as good as we could. Anyways, we got it out here. We're gonna just start disassembling it. You got 2 screws on the bottom here that you wanna undo. When you're doing this, you need to make sure you keep every one of these screws. Every one of the little plastic clips. You don't wanna lose those. Okay, so we got those 3 screws out. Then on the top here, you're gonna have the clips. You have numerous clips. So one's here, one's here, one's here, one's here. Now this will allow for the whole top part to come off. That's the easy part. So then you're gonna have screws here, 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 and then on the left side too, you got to disassemble quite a bit of this portion here. Move the coil sensors and all that fun stuff. So we'll get right into it.
As you can see, he's got the cardboard here in concrete, so it doesn't scratch the unit or scratch the concrete.
Mainly the unit. Yeah. You could get some rust residue and stuff coming out of that drain pan. You don't want to get that on the concrete either. All right, so now this left side's undone. Here you're gonna have one of your coil sensors kind of down in here. Right here's one of the coil sensors there. All right, so I'm gonna reposition this a bit. So on here you have 2 different coil sensors. One that's slightly larger, it's gonna go here, and then a slightly smaller one that actually tucks on the underneath side here of the little clip. Right inside of here, it's on the coil as well. See it right in there. Okay, so to get this guard off, we're gonna have to undo this portion here. You got a screw here. I undid that. That gives this whole lower board and indoor board some extra room. And you can pull this out. Gives you room. Here's your other coil sensor. It's there. So you undo that one. And then that can all go to the board. Also, you're gonna have your ground wire going onto that coil housing right there. Undo that one. So now this is giving us quite a bit of room here. So we just got to get this blower assembly out of here, and then we can go ahead and put the new coil in. Okay, again, the importance of having a long screwdriver is really key. So you actually have to undo the blower wheel. So you have to take the blower wheel out. A couple of these are different. Some of them will have an Allen key inside of here. This particular one has the set screw right through there, little Phillips head. Again, you have to have a long one. So we loosen that up. One thing I want to point out to you guys that I've come across a couple different times when other people replace either a blower motor or pull and clean a blower wheel, the actual shaft on these blower motors, if you get in close here, you can see they have a little outside rivet and then an indentation, and then it pops back out again. Now when you tighten down that set screw, if you tighten it down on this portion back here or on this portion here, you're kind of screwed as far as being able to get this off. So you really need to make sure the set screw is on the inside rivet. So somewhere in here, not here, not here, inside of this part. Now, what I found is if you make sure you have an even distance on either side here, usually you're gonna be right in the ballpark. Just a side note. So now, as far as the coil goes, you have to take everything apart. I mean, you see we got our boards, we got our drain pan, our louvers. We're gonna have to actually pull out our whole blower housing. It's pretty amazing, but what we have left is literally our back piece and then our coil. All of this comes apart. So these are kind of clipped in, so you actually just kind of have to push it and then it slides out. So there's actually not any screws on this portion, you just have a couple screws on the left-hand side. So here we have our old coil that was leaking, and that's what you get with the new one. Literally just this piece. You can see how disassembled everything is. I mean, you have literally taken the whole indoor unit apart. I don't know, it took us, what, 30 minutes maybe? Now we have to reverse that whole process and put everything back together. When we have it apart like this, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna clean the blower wheel. This one's not bad, a lot of times they're bad, but if you have it apart, take the time, make sure you clean everything out really good. You know, it's gonna take you 5 minutes opposed to an hour and a half to do it. We'll go ahead and clean everything up and start putting everything back together. So back to this stuff. Putting it all back together is not too bad if you're fairly familiar with them. If you're not, it may be overwhelming. If it is overwhelming, you can always go to mylinkdrive.com and look at the service manual, and they will have a step-by-step process to do this. I've done a decent amount of these, so I don't have to go step by step, but if you ever get in a pinch, and it will walk you through. Obviously that's if you're working on a Mitsubishi product, and that is the one nice thing about Mitsubishi. I mean, they have a lot of great features. You know, a big thing though, like I mentioned earlier, Brian Orr actually had a scenario where he went to pull, or actually replace the blower motor, I believe. Previous company or previous technician, we're not really sure what happened, but they had tightened the set screw down outside of that little indentation, and they worked on it for a long time trying to get it off, and what they ended up having to do is actually actually cut the shaft off, because you can't really take this apart, so they had to actually cut the shaft off and then replace the blower motor as well as the blower wheel. The severity of making that mistake of not putting the set screw on the correct place is pretty severe. So one other thing we want to note here, we actually have to get the little clip off the old coil for that coil sensor. So there's a little clip on there we want to get and use on the new one. So you'll have the copper piece, but you won't have the piece that secures it. So you'll actually need to get this part out and reuse that one. Okay, so we got the new clip. You still got your old new copper housing there. This is what's going to keep the sensor in place once it goes in there. So the larger one goes in there. This one has its own little clip, again, that you clip onto the coil. All right, so we're going to want to do this in order. At this point, we're going to want to put in just reverse. So we're going to put in the blower motor and blower wheel. So we're going to put those in there and then start step by step putting it all back together. Alright, so now before I go any further, I'm going to take the blower wheel, slip that in. Okay, then like I mentioned earlier, you're going to really want to focus on the spacing here when you're setting the screw. If you look at the set screw in here, if you look from this angle here, you can actually see the tip of it poking through there. So that's kind of a good reference point as to where you're supposed to be.